I have some absolutely amazing news to share with you guys today. The mainstream media is trying to keep it hidden. They're trying to keep all eyes focused over on Russia and the Ukraine. About 2 years ago, this channel began making videos saying, keep your eyes on Brazil. They're going to be a new world leader. Florida and Brazil share a common culture, and there's a specific aspect in this story that I think a lot of you will see. Now, one of the arguments being made from those who don't really buy the official story about Russia and the Ukraine is this. These two separatist regions in the east, where Russia's moved troops in, they really identify more with Russian culture, and they would rather be governed by Moscow than by Kiev. Okay, so if we're going to begin redrawing maps based on culture, there's no better time to do it than now in the Western Hemisphere. Wait till you read this story. Now, Florida, for a long time, has been referred to as the gunshine state because we have even more guns in Florida than they have in Texas. And we have very loose laws. We still have, of course, concealed carry, but believe me when I tell you, there's nobody here without a weapon. Nobody. Now, you ready for this? This was from a couple of years ago. Brazil's leading presidential candidate gets it right on gun control. Now, this was when he was a candidate, talking about Jair Bolsonaro, the current president of Brazil. Guns don't feed violence, just as flowers don't bring peace. So proclaimed Brazilian presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro. Now, we all know that he won. After he became president, the first thing he did, he said, go buy a gun. Everybody. I want everybody to arm themselves. This guy's a member of the military. Has been for a long time. And everybody said, oh, this is going to be terrible. Oh, wait until all the results of this. Oh my gosh, it's going to be just a bloodbath. Ready for this? Murders in Brazil fall to lowest in 14 years. There has been a precipitous drop in violent crime. Now, I wonder why. I wonder why. See, the left can't understand this. Those of us on the right, it makes perfect sense because we understand the thought processes of a criminal. Because if they know that their targets might possibly be armed and fight back, maybe they aren't so excited about going and being a criminal. But when they know everybody's disarmed and they're the only ones who have weapons, it gives them a sense of power. It encourages crime. Now, why can't the left see this? Well, it's real simple. It's something else I've been saying for a long time. The only thing they do on the left is consult their feelings, and they make a list of all the things they're feeling, and then they ask themselves how they feel about their own feelings. And they call that thought. They take assessing your emotional state and then yammering on ad nauseum about it and say that's thoughtful analysis. This is why I have encouraged people to join us over at Patreon, where we can show you whether or not you are actually just doing that or whether you're actually thinking for $1 per month. Fully refundable. Even less if you sign up for an entire year. And that's the lowest possible level that I am allowed to charge. We have 11, maybe 12 videos up in the last month and a half. There's a grand total library of about 90 videos going back 3 or 4 years talking about this. What if Florida and Brazil started an alliance? What if Florida said, you know what, we're done with Washington, D.C. to the extent that now we think we should be part of a country that more aligns with our values, just like what's going on over in Ukraine. The Russians moved in to protect these separatists that identify more with Russian culture. They crossed crossed international borders. What if we invited the Brazilians into Florida to protect us from Washington, D.C.? Or help us protect ourselves from Washington, D.C.? I could give you a laundry list a mile long of things that Florida has in common with Brazil that Washington, D.C. doesn't, or even the rest of North America for that matter. We have a huge, huge Brazilian population here. One of my most ardent viewers, we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, is Brazilian. And he's older than I am, in great shape, works out, fresh food, enjoys the sunshine. And real quick, is this Brazil or Florida? Some people would look at this and go, wow, that looks awfully European. That could be Brazil. I don't know, maybe St. Augustine, Florida. Presbyterian Memorial Church. Here's a wider view. And there's cities like this all over Florida. And when you look at our culture, how we behave, what we believe, and why we were so wildly different than the rest of North America in the last 2 years, you would think we were a colony of Brazil if you didn't know where the lines were drawn. This guy is as popular with his people as DeSantis is with ours. See, this guy doesn't need to put up fences to go give a speech. He doesn't need to hide in basements. Neither does Governor DeSantis. He can go walk among the people, have beers, smile and laugh, unlike some other leaders. And also, we have this in common with Brazil. The Republic of Florida used to stretch all the way from the eastern Bahamas to Texas. This was all La Florida. Some have even thought maybe we should move north, all the way into perhaps southern Tennessee. And the Brazilians got it right economically. They have a trade surplus. $58.72 billion in trade surplus per year. And this is from 25 March of last year. Brazilians in Florida, a love affair. People are starting to see it. 6 days ago, the leader of Brazil was in Moscow talking about friendship and mutual understanding. Now, here's something that the lead gets buried on. It's a recent story out of Colombia that goes right along with this North Americans' complete misunderstanding of Latin culture. Colombia's high court decriminalizes, partially, abortion in historic decision. Now think about this. It's 2022. And the most U.S.-like, for lack of a better term, South American country just now decriminalized abortion. We just passed a law here in Florida where we restricted it back. It's never been criminalized. Restricted it back to 16 weeks. And the left is losing their minds here. They're saying it's hugely repressive and all this. There has never been, like Colombia, 2006, legalized abortions in case of rape reported to the authorities, risk to the woman's life, or of an unviable fetus. That's always been the case. Well, since 2006 anyway. Prior to that, criminal. And they say on average 400 such criminal cases where they go outside the law have been opened yearly, 20% of them against minors. The other 80% against the people providing the abortions. Now, 400 in a country of 40 million. Do the math. And they're showing this poll, and this is called the framing effect. You see, we talk about the 24 cognitive biases, the 24 logical fallacies over at the Patreon channel that I keep harping on. This is a perfect example. A poll this month showed 49% of Colombians are against jailing women. Let's read what this actually says. A poll this month showed the majority of Colombians, 51%, are for jailing women who seek an abortion. See, it's called the framing effect. If they actually read this poll properly, it would show you that most Colombians are against this repeal. But what's the bigger story? It shows you that South Americans, Brazilians, think abortion is just horrible, to the point where there was a woman in Honduras that did 10 years in prison a few years ago. And it's only now in 2022 that places like Mexico and Chile and Argentina and Colombia, where Washington, D.C. has the most inroads, are beginning to think about not bringing their laws in line with U.S. laws, just partially decriminalizing it. You can still go to jail. But notice they don't talk about Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, any of these where it's just the people are just dead set against it. And that's the direction Florida's going. So this has been, my argument all along. And there's another statistic here where they do the same thing. An estimated 70 women die every year in Colombia due to unsafe abortions, according to studies from Health Ministry. 70. In a country of 40 million people. Lightning kills 50 people in the U.S. every year. So it's just a little bit more likely to die of an unsafe abortion in Colombia than it is to get hit by lightning. That's how rare it is. And of course, they give the anecdotal evidence. I mean, this entire article is just filled with cognitive biases and logical fallacies. And when you read it and you're in command of those things we teach over at Patreon, you can see right through it. And I'll just, leave the end of this video with talking about how beautiful, unbelievably beautiful Brazil is. The girl from Ipanema, the Copacabana, absolutely a gorgeous place to live, and as is Florida. That's why so many Brazilians come here and vacation here. Orlando, the southeastern part of Florida. I mean, you can go through image after image, and this is another thing too. Fresh food. Fresh, healthy, good for you food, non-processed food is something that Floridians value and Brazilians value to the extent that it's going to change culture. The healthful life that says sunshine and diet and exercise and rest. And all of these things are going to be far, far more important in people's lives than what we have seen in the past. This is Miami. Now, as promised, Tim Bassett, one of my viewers, guys, a lot older than me, in great shape, talks about what he does working out. And he's Brazilian, lifting logs, concrete blocks, bags of rock salt, push-ups, pull-ups, burpees, bear crawl. I shared this before. But he put up a couple of pictures recently, and one of them was a quote from John Adams that a lot of people just read the last part of. And I'd like to read the entire one for you here right now, and while sharing his page here on Instagram. But should the people of America once become capable of that deep simulation towards one another and towards foreign nations, which assumes the language of justice and moderation, while it is practicing iniquity and extravagance, and displays in the most captivating manner the charming pictures of candor, frankness, and sincerity. While it is rioting in rapine and insolence, this country will be the most miserable habitation in the world. What, of course, he's describing there is hypocrisy, because we have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Avarice, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Now, who was he speaking to here? The Massachusetts militia in 1798. This was long after the Revolution. And he was starting to see people get passionate and not think and just do whatever popped into their heads. And he thought the most important people that needed to hear this were the militia, about restraint, unbridled by morality and religion. You see, that's the key. And that's why this back here makes so much more sense. Because it's just the idea of having it. You don't need to go brandish. You don't need to go make a big show of it. Believe me, they'll figure it out, the criminals, real fast. It doesn't take very many events before they do the math in their head. It's like, this isn't going to be worth it. There's other things I can do to make money and get by without taking a chance on getting ended. I mean, it's truly amazing news. And this is Florida in a nutshell. People hear all the bad stories about Florida. Florida's the safest place I've ever lived in my life. By far. Leave the doors open. And strangely enough, most of my neighbors here in Palm Coast are Russians. True story. So I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.